This is eCoffee with Experts, where marketers and founders share what's actually working in SEO, AI, and digital growth. Grab your coffee and fuel your mind as we chat with top minds about their wins, struggles, and lessons you won't find in a blog post. Brought to you by Digital Web Solutions, we bring real talk to help you grow your business, one episode at a time. Let's get started.
Hey, hi everyone. Welcome to your show, Coffee with Experts. This is your host, Ranmay here. And today we have Chris Brown, who is the founder and managing director of Total Surf with us. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
I'm good, thanks, Ranmay. How are you?
All well. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
So, Chris, before we move any forward, why don't you talk us through your journey a bit, how it all started? You have been in the game for quite some time. Would love to understand, how has it been so far? And also a bit about Total Surf. What do you guys do? The core offerings? How is the team structured? And we'll take it off from there.
Yeah, I've been doing this a very, very long time, actually. I originally started off at university doing a degree in music.
Wow.
And in the second year, we had to specialize either in music production or the business side. And I kind of lost my passion for music production due to all the egos that were involved in the music industry at that time. And there were some very famous people that went on from my course who are, some of the largest musicians in the world. So there were some great people there, but I probably realized that that wasn't for me. So I went down the business route and I came across a computer in the library. This was before we had the internet at home. Everyone was using bulletin boards at the time. This is back in 93, 94, around that sort of time. I ended up running a bulletin board for a short while, but came across this computer in the library that said the internet, book a session, which I did. And I booked, and you spent about 15 minutes trying to dial in and eventually got in. And the very first browser I was using was actually Spry Mosaic, which didn't even have backgrounds, had colors, nothing else. This was even before Netscape came out. Anyway, long story short, I built my first website for the music degree on my second year, then got to the end of my degree and wondered what to do. And my lecturer said, there's actually a master's degree in multimedia coming up, and I think it would be perfect for you with everything that you've been doing. So I went along, interviewed, and got on the master's degree and did that for a year, which was fantastic. It taught me a great deal about object-oriented programming. I was working with director lingo at the time. This is before Flash even, and came out of there and went straight into a job as a webmaster in the UK's first credit card company called NetBanks. So very, very early on, before even most people had the internet at home, I was actually building and looking after websites. Literally within about 5 months, they realized I was pretty good at what I was doing, and put me in charge of a team of 5 people, which was quite a scary thing for a person I was probably 21 at the time. I'd been working for 5 months and suddenly in charge of a team of, again, 5 people. And through there, I then went on, worked at agency side, worked in-house. And then in 2004, had the opportunity to start Total Surf. We didn't start as an SEO agency because SEO just didn't exist in 2004. You had a website, you put some content up and you ranked, and it was all about meta keywords and everything at the time. And that transitioned probably around about, I would say about 10 to 12 years ago, where I suddenly realized that SEO actually was going to be the way forward for the agency rather than designing and developing websites. So we pivoted to becoming more of a digital marketing agency. And over the last 10 years, it's been quite a journey, to the point where we now even have content writers in-house, because noticing the change in the market and what's needed, I realized that that was what was going to be good for the business, to actually have good quality, proper journalists in-house who are able to write engaging content that converts for people. So we're a team of 8. We're based in the UK, as you said, in Reading, which is a great location, very close to London, very close to the M4 corridor, where there's lots of tech companies. But we actually work with clients all over the world. But we've got clients in America, some in France. Most of ours are in the UK because they like to work with a local agency. But we basically rank them on Google for converting traffic.
Lovely, lovely. Quite a journey, I must say. Like you said, you have been in the game for quite some time. And then you have been building websites, doing SEO before it all started. So, and then, I would like to understand from you, Chris, you have seen enough summers and winters, right, in the industry now. So what is that one biggest shift or any, Google update that you feel was one significant, shift in the overall industry landscape before the AI era happened, because AI has taken it by storm, all of the talks, and we're going to get into that. But before that, what is that one biggest shift as per you?
I think the biggest shift I've noticed really is that it shouldn't be about rankings so much anymore. While they're absolutely critical to success, it's about conversions. And I think the biggest shift is that's what clients are now looking for.
Mhm.
So when we're trying to engage with potential clients, it's not so much talking about, oh, we'll get you into position X or on page one. It's about what that's going to do for the business and the intent of those types of searches and the intent of those rankings. Because yeah, you can be, positions 1 to 3, and you can be getting loads of traffic and 0 conversions, and then it's worthless for a business. So I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed is clients expect more than just position.
And talking about, starting your own agency, initially it is challenging, right? Keeping the lights on, getting the first clients in, wearing multiple hats, you're selling, you're delivering, you're doing project management, quite
Yeah.
literally everything, right? And even the
Mm.
support functions, right? Hiring, recruitment, finances, handling books, and all of that. So, how it all started, how challenging were the first few days, weeks, months, to kind of stabilize your business?
It was extremely challenging at the start. I was getting pulled left, right, and center, working every single possible hour. And whenever an email came through, reacting to it instantly. I remember times when, I was on holiday and I missed days out and things because a client said, I need this. And that was probably the most difficult thing is trying to set client expectations, but also give yourself time to be a person and not literally just be like that at their beck and call. And yeah, there are times when that's absolutely critical. If someone's got a problem with a website, the website's down, they're at an exhibition or something, there are times you have to do that. But a lot of the time people want things quicker than, or they say they want them quicker than they actually do. And you can also take that innately and start to take it on as a very much personal thing that you need to deliver it there and then. And while it's still important to do it in a timely manner, not everything is a critical rush. And it's about planning things out right and pacing yourself.
Absolutely. Moving on to the AI era, Chris, how do you think, overall the impact has been so far? And as we are ending 2025 now, where do you feel, how is it going to be in 2026? More tools mushrooming the market. What is it as per you?
Yeah, I'm going to say something probably a little bit controversial here. I don't think it's changed that much. I think there's a
Okay.
fear
Why'd you
that
say
it's
that?
changed a lot. I think you've obviously got the two sides to it. You've got the AI generation, which we don't use as an agency. We use it for planning, but it's awful at creating consistent, engaging, quality content, whether that's written word, video, or imagery. You can't get an AI to make a tiny change to something. We've run tests and we've got it to produce an infographic and it's nearly got it right. And we've said, oh, can you make a slight tweak to that? And it's then totally changed it. It's like suddenly dealing with another freelancer. But I think from the GEO side of it, where people are actually using the LLMs for search, whether that's something as simple that's baked into the browser like Gemini or ChatGPT, that's where I don't think it's different. And the reason for that is I think that is basically almost like using a PA or a researcher, giving them a task and letting them go and get information and then delivering that to you in a cut down and a concise, shortened proceed version. Now, if you have a good quality website with all the right markup, the schema, everything that an AI agent needs to read that, you should be ranking well. Now, that's what Google has always said they've wanted. I say always, it obviously changes all the time, but the importance of things like schema and EEAT and so forth has been at the forefront of everything that we've been doing for many years here now. Before EEAT, it was EAT. And we made sure that we were compliant with that. Now, if you can hit all of those check boxes and those check marks, everything should get picked up by an AI agent, a large language model, to the point where we've got clients who've actually achieving really good rankings without us actually making a decisive shift to go, let's target ChatGPT. When we had a client last week who got a £15,000 deal, which was the first of many deals that's going to come from this client through GPT. Now, we hadn't done anything different, anything that we would normally do, which we consider best practice, to rank for a human being.
And then what, adjustments or recalibration have you done from a tech SEO standpoint now, especially with LLMs reading content differently the way it used to be with, normal Google search engines crawlers?
Yeah. So I think there's more of an emphasis on schema for us now, ensuring that every single possible type of schema that is suitable for that page, that piece of content, and any supporting elements are on the site. This is also really important where EEAT comes into it. The EEAT, sorry, I call it EEAT here for short. I think that's an important part and sends those right signals to Google so that it can see that authority, that expertise, that trust. But if you get that all right with the correct schema markup, doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it's all the basic stuff of, organizational schema, that's really basic to do. But if you're on a product, making sure that you've got all the correct product schema in. If it's a medical site, like a biopharma site, making sure that you've actually got research paper schema on there. You've got schema about the person's qualifications. If it's an e-commerce site, again, taking all that stuff and making sure that you're listed in Merchant Center. That, for us, we've noticed, has made the deeper, more complex technical stuff that the majority of people can't do in the back end using Yoast or something like that on a website or Shopify as easily as then employing expert consultants like us to do that.
Absolutely. And, last 20 odd years, you would have worked across hundreds of sites, right? So what is that single biggest, technical issue, which you have come across still kind of affecting rankings in 2025?
Yeah, I think there's something that we see on every single site that we audit, and it's an internal term that we use, but we call it the Holy Trinity, which always makes people laugh because I always get to say, whether you're religious or not, so it can fit to anybody, everybody understands what the Holy Trinity is: the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost. It's the same entity, and it's said in three ways. Now, we coined that phrase around the URL, the title, and the H1 on the page. Now, every single site that we see has a repetition of all of those three, or a very, very close repetition. It's very rare that we don't see an identical title to an H1 and pretty close URL structure. And it's amazing just in the first pass technical changes that we do, the difference that we can make by actually saying, look, you're missing opportunities here by shouting at Google. You're saying the same thing in three different critical elements, because we all know those are the first three things that Google looks at, even before it starts to download schema and look at the sitemap and everything. Obviously it gets the sitemap to find the pages, but it looks at those top level elements. And if you can start to vary those up and actually bring in the keyword research and start to thread through all the different semantic words that people are looking for across that, say we call it a Holy Trinity check, we've noticed that's probably the most consistent thing that everybody gets wrong, but can make a big difference, even if that's the only thing you're going to do on the site.
And then, Chris, from your experience, what do you think, how important is backlinks? I mean, overall, from an SEO standpoint, how important it is still? Or do you also feel that link building is no more there, it is dead, whatever?
Yeah, it's massively been dialed down in terms of its importance. Up until around about 2 years ago, link building wasn't even anything that we actually did internally in TotalSurf, because it was always quite a dark art and things were changing all the time, to the point where Google was starting to delist people and give them manual warnings for going out and buying links. And Google, as you know, Google actively says you shouldn't even ask for a link. Never mind pay for one, but you shouldn't even ask for a link. The reality is everybody knows that's not true. Everyone is going to ask for a link. I think link building is still very important, but it's shifted very much into what we now phrase as digital PR. So it's actually, it's all about good quality content. So it's about creating things like polls, infographics, quick checklists, so we've got an EEAT checklist on our website, which does really well. We do really well for HTTP status codes because we've got a list of all the HTTP status codes, and we appear in when someone's looking for, what's a 503 status code? Don't ask me, by the way, I can't remember exactly off the top of my head. I know it's a server error. That's about as far as I can go with that one. I'll look on my blog article. But I think the backlinks, I say they're still an important part, but there are other far more important things.
And you touched upon a very important thing there about digital PR. Doing that needs a lot of specialization and also kind of understanding how it is being done, and can get expensive as well, right? Because you're targeting the high end media outlets there. And
Yeah.
at what stage, you feel that the client or a project is ready for a digital PR campaign? I mean, ideally, at what stage do you recommend a digital PR campaign to apply?
That's a good question. And we actually break link building down into kind of 2 or 3 different categories. So you've got the really basic, easy stuff to do right at the start of the project, which we do, like is citations. But I mean good quality citations. I'm not talking about getting
Yes.
lists from random websites, but being in all the right places like Yelp, Cyclex, Google My Business, Apple Maps, Bing Places, all of those sorts of areas. So that should be done straight away.
Right.
That's often where we quite often find errors. We'll find out that there's a citation using an old logo. They might have changed the logo 3 years ago or even longer. And we come across some really old logos or incorrect phone numbers. Businesses have moved address. We find out that we go and correct all those things. The second thing that we do start to do fairly early on as well is we actually do the black book stuff. So actually reaching out to the client saying, right, who are you connected to? Who are your partners? Are you a member of a body, a trade organization? Do you have any links in there? And as part of that second part, we also have an ongoing active watch, and we use a number of tools like Google Alerts, Talkwalker, Press Pulse, Press Ranger, and so forth to look out for client mentions. Has anybody mentioned that client anywhere online where there isn't a link? We've achieved some great links for people with that. It would depend whether it's something that we then get in touch with the website for, or whether we think it's better for the client to reach out. So we had a really good example of someone who was selling homewares, and someone had mentioned the company name on Mumsnet, which is obviously one of the biggest forums in the world. They mentioned the company name, but there was no link to the URL. So we told the business owner. She went on Mumsnet and said, "Oh, hi, I actually own that business. Thank you very much for answering. And this is actually a link to the product you're talking about." And we saw massive traffic drive from that, and actually sales. The longer term stuff where we're talking about skyscraping, we're talking about content promotion, all of those sorts of elements, you've got to get your content done first. Because what are you going to reach out for? So by then, your technical's fixed, because the technical usually gets fixed fairly quickly. And obviously, you need to keep on top of it, because with content management systems and changes, as people make changes on sites, things go wrong. But you've got to get that content right. If you write a good piece of content, that's when you can start to think, right, how can we leverage this? If it's a skyscraping piece, for example, for one of our clients, a client called Always Flourishing, they're an education and recruitment company. We wrote an article on how to get your first job in education. And we discovered it happened to be our local university, which is a total coincidence, but we discovered that they'd got an article that was linked to a competitor that was 5 years out of date. So we wrote to the university and said, "We've spotted this. This is actually factually incorrect information. Would you mind linking to our client's article?" Because it was such a well-written article, the university actually said, "We'd actually love the article. Could we actually host it and put a link and a credit to you?" Which was even better, because we've become a resource then for any future teaching staff. But the reason I'm telling you that story is we had the good content. Content takes a long time to write. So it's almost better to get your content aligned first of all, and then see what opportunities there are in that before you then go, right, what other opportunities are out there, and what do we now need to write on top that's going to work?
Very nicely put, that one, Chris. Really, really love the way you kind of use that analogy. Perfect. So, 20 years now, Chris, looking at 2026 and beyond, right? What do you think is that one single trend, that will redefine what good SEO, if there is one, even means?
This is a very interesting question. And a friend of mine last night was saying, how are we going to trust anything that's produced now with AI getting better? In 2 or 3 years' time, how are we going to know that something's good? So I think it's going to be very person centric. So I think it's very much about basically backing up that EEAT. So writing good human generated content that's consumer centric, that gives them good advice, but importantly, actually having that aligned with an expert in the business. Now, it doesn't matter who's writing that. The reality is that the CEO of a company isn't going to be writing a blog article, but if it's apportioned to that person, the content needs to be stellar. It needs to be the best article, the best guide or post that potential customer of yours have seen. I think that's what's going to lead to success over and above AI generated content.
Lovely. Great, Chris. This has been a great conversation. But before we wrap this up, you have been in the business for so long. You have clearly made it big now and successfully running your agency. So what is that one piece of advice you would want to give to our young listeners today who are trying to make a mark in the digital marketing niche, or let's say, trying to start their, kind of go through that breakthrough and kind of trying to start their own agency now?
That's a difficult question to answer because it's changed so much. I almost wonder if things have come around to the way they used to be. So when I first started an agency, I was lucky enough to come out with a master's degree in something that nobody did. It was the first one in the whole of the UK. So going along with a degree, going, I know how to build websites, people are like, is that a degree? I think that's so easy to fall into now, and anybody can build a website online. They can use AI tools and so forth. So what I noticed, when I was really young in the business, there were lots of apprentices and work experience working in graphic studios and design studios, going along and working for free for 3 to 6 months. Maybe getting some expenses, getting their lunch paid for and their transport paid so that they weren't doing it out of their own pocket. But I do wonder if someone wants to move into the agency model, if that is going to be the best way to actually show some passion, come with some ideas and some things that you want to do, and actually say, I want to come and learn from you. I'm not expecting to get paid because, let's face it, no business owner at the moment is going to probably pay someone who has no commercial experience because there's so many people out there who do it. And I think that's probably a good way in. If people are going to start their own business, they've got a catch-22 scenario, which I was very lucky at when I started my agency, because I'd already been working for someone else. I was able to go, here's proof of my work. I built this, I built a website for the DVLA, for example, UK's very first online theory test, which was a practice system. And I built that, and I was able to show them the code, talk through the code and say that was me, that I put all that front end together. Back end was done by the back end team back in the day, but I did all the front end coding. So they've got to come now, I think, with a model and a concept. And I think they should probably try and steer away from AI, building it, not using vibe coding, because anybody can do that. Actually come up with something, even if it doesn't look great, just show the functionality and talk about the limitations of it and where you want to take it and how it's going to go forward. What you think you could do better if you had another month to spend on it, another 6 months, however long it might be, but give that vision for how it could grow and what you could do with it and what its faults are as well.
Perfect, Chris. Thank you so much for the insightful conversation today. Really appreciate you taking out time to do this with us. For our audiences, if they want to reach out to you, how would they do that?
Yeah, so there's a number of ways. You can go to our website, which is totalsurf.net. If you go on LinkedIn, it's LinkedIn/TotalSurf. But if people want to get in touch, message me on LinkedIn.
Lovely, Chris. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.